Hello class, and welcome again to another lesson on JavaScript loops. And in our previous class we have looked at the concept of a JavaScript for loop, and we have seen the syntax for creating the for loop, and we even created a simple for loop here to print the numbers between 100 to uh, between 1 to 100. And now we want to look at the different type of the loop, and that is the while loop. The while loop is another type of the JavaScript loops, and it is written using the following syntax. So we use the keyword while, and then we have the condition within the parentheses, and then we have the block of code. An example is this down right here. So without a further ado, let's get started and see how we can create a simple while loop. So I'm going to turn over to my Visual Studio, and right now I'm going below the for loop. I'm now going to create a while loop that will print out the numbers from 1 to 100. So to be able to do that, I'm going to write a while loop down here. How do we write a while loop? So we use the keyword while, and then within the parentheses we put the condition that will control this loop. And for that, I'm going to declare a variable let x be equals to 1. So I have a variable x initialized to 1, and I'm going to say while x is less than or equals to 100, then print or console dot log the value of x, and then after logging it, increment x by 1. So I'm going to say x plus plus. So then let me comment out the first for loop so that it does not interfere with the output of this second one. So now we have this code block here. So what will happen is that the initial value of x is 1, and here we have the condition x less or equals to 100, and here if the condition is true, then print x, and after printing x, increment x by 1, and then again after incrementing x, check the condition, and if the condition is true again, execute again, print x and increment x by 1, and again check the condition. So this code block will run multiple times until the point where this condition is false. So let us start running this code and see the output. So I'm going to clear the console, and then I'm going to write the command again to run this code. And now when it runs again, it prints the same numbers from 1 to 100. So what happens in the first scenario is that it checks x is equals to 1, and it checks 1 is less than 100. That is true, and if it is true, it prints x and increases x by 1. X now becomes 2, and then it checks again if x is less than 100. Yes, 2 is less than 100. It is true. It prints the value of x 2 and increases 2 by 1. Now the value of x becomes 3. Again, 3 is less than 100. That is true. It prints the value of x and increments x by 1, and now the new value of x becomes 4. So it continues that way until when the value of x is 100, and then again increments by 1, the value of x becomes 101. So when the value of x becomes 101, then this condition becomes false, because 101 is not less than 100. So when this condition becomes false, the loop will stop executing and we will have the result displayed. So that is all about the while loop, the syntax of writing the while loop. What about if I tell you now to change this condition so that you can print the value of x starting from 100 to 1. So now you're going to initialize the initial value of x to be 100, and you're going to say as long as x is greater or equals to 1, greater or equals to 1, console print x, and then instead of incrementing we are going to do a decrement. So here let us run this code again. So let me clear, and I'm going to run. Now it starts printing the values from 100 all the way to 1. So it finds x 100 is greater than 1, it prints 100 and then decreases 100 by 1. Then the new value of x now becomes 99, and 99 is still greater than 1, it prints 99, it decrements 99 by 1. Now we have the value of x becoming 98, and it continues looping through that manner until the value of x becomes 1. So that's all about the for loop. Again, we can have the for loop to print the results or to print out the elements of the array. So below this, I'm going to declare an array with a const keyword, and I'm going to call it names, and this is going to be an array, and the first we are going to have 5 elements within this array. So we have the first name as Peter, comma, the other name is Simon, comma, the other name is John, comma, the other name is Isaac, comma, the other name is Luke. So this is an array initialized with 5 items, and now we want to create a while loop that will loop through this array to print out the values of this array. So to be able to do that, we are going to have the value of x initialized to names dot length. Why length? Is because we said the length method of an array is the method that will give us the total number of elements in this array. So now this array has 5 elements. So when we say names.length, we are going to return 5, and therefore 5 is going to be assigned to variable x. And now we are going to say, or even we can initialize x to 0. And then we are coming to say, as long as x is less than length, or is less than names.length. What do we do? Print names x and then increase x by 1. Alright, so let's check what does this logic do. So we are initializing the initial value of x to 0, and within our condition we are saying x is less than names.length. Names.length will return 5. So it's like here we are saying x is less than 5, because when we say names.length, it will return us how many, the number of elements, which is 5. And then console.log names x. So the initial value of x is 0. Names x here will be like we are logging the element at position 0. And then we increment x by 1. Now the new value of x is 1. 1 is still less than 5. And therefore we log the names 1. So the name, when we say name x, now it's like we are saying names at position 1, and the element at position 1 is Simon. After that, we again increment x by 1. Now the new value of x is 2. And again, 2 is still less than 5, because array.length will give us 5. And then log console.log names at position 2, and position 2 here is John. And again, after logging this, we increment x by 1, and now the new value of x becomes 3. So it will continue looping through this until we print all the array values. So now let us return it to the initial way it was, assigning x to 0. And here, instead of hard coding the actual value, we're going to say x so that it can pick the value of x dynamically. So now we're going to save, and now when I clear this log and run the statement, run the code again, we're going to see that we have been able to print the list of items from this array. So that's how we can create another for loop to be able to print the elements of an array. Otherwise, that's all about the concept of while loop. In our next class, we will be able to look at the concept of the do while loop. Otherwise, thank you for joining the lesson, and see you in our next class.